and welcome to this panel on AI. Our topic today is artificial intelligence and the impact of big data on industry, banking, and consumer cultures. My name is Nadim Jawhari, and I will be the moderator of this panel in the Free Connected Minds e-conference 9th edition, organized by Meisha Dia Foundation in partnership with Frederic Naumann Foundation. I'm currently sitting physically at Meisha Dia Foundation studios in Beirut. We have 4 distinguished guest speakers today, virtually present with us via Zoom. We have Gabriel Deek in Beirut. Gabriel, we all know Gabriel. He's a veteran ICT local expert and a co-founder of the ISOC Lebanon chapter. We have Dr. Rita Mokbel in Sweden. She's the vice president and head of global sales, Ericsson Managed Services IT. We have Mr. Hisham Dalle from Canada. Hisham is the founder and CEO of cloudzero and Onechain. Mr. Christian Bauer, he's in Vienna currently. He's a senior lead user experience product designer, product architect, senior visual designer, and an expert in AI and virtual reality. We will have a small video on AI as intro. Then we will have the first section on the opportunities in AI, where the 4 speakers will each have 5 to 10 minutes where they can show their presentation. After that, the second section will be about the challenges with AI in all aspects. The third section will be general question and answers and the wrap-up. So I would like to welcome our 4 speakers. It's good to have you here with us in Beirut. And it's a very exciting topic. And I'm looking forward to learn from you what you have earned, the experience and the knowledge about AI all in your different careers. Maybe Gabriel will start first with your, after the video, we'll see the video first, and afterwards Gabriel will do his part.
I am a protector, exploring the expanses of space to keep our planet safe, and all the species that call it home. I am a healer, giving doctors the vision to create amazing new cures. And using the heart's own magnetic field to diagnose itself. I am a guardian, searching a mountain of data to keep us safe when we travel, and a sea of people to find a lost child. I am a helper, powering autonomous machines that simplify our lives. Capture our greatest adventures. And make us whole again. I am a visionary, enabling taxis that don't need steering wheels, and those that don't need roads. I am even the composer of the music you're hearing. I am AI, brought to life by NVIDIA, deep learning, and brilliant minds everywhere.
Thank you Nadim for hosting us, and thank you MCF and FNF. Thank you my fellow panelists for being around. Okay, so for many people, artificial intelligence is reduced to a robot. A robot actually with higher capabilities than its creator. So it is obviously, the robot, I mean, is obviously capable of doing many things better than us. It is capable of running, of jumping, of thinking, of doing math, playing chess against us and actually winning. And this is, for me, this is something terrifying. Next, please. So AI, if you want to make a definition, a quick definition, AI or artificial intelligence is the ability of a computer or a robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent beings, such as observing, perceiving, understanding the language, reasoning, discovering meaning, generalizing, and learning from past experience. This is extremely important. Learning from past experience. Since their development in the 40s and the 50s, computers have demonstrated their ability to perform very complex tasks, such as finding proofs of mathematical theorems or practicing chess with great mastery. Nevertheless, despite their constant progress and the ever-increasing speed of information processing, as well as the enormous memory capacity of computers, there is to date no program or system capable of competing with the flexibility of human intelligence in the fields requiring a broad knowledge of life. So even if some programs have reached human or beyond human levels of performance and expertise in the execution of certain specific tasks, such as medical diagnosis or even medical surgery, search engines, voice or handwritten recognition, artificial intelligence remains in this sense quite limited. Okay, so work on artificial intelligence began at the beginning of the last century. It was mainly undertaken by very distinguished names like Minsky, Newell, McCarthy, but above all, Turing. You know, I'm sure you know about Alan Turing through the movies.
The Enigma machine, yeah.
Yes. He broke actually the Enigma machine. He broke the secrets of the Enigma machine, okay, and turned the course of World War II to the benefit of the Allies. And for those who didn't have the opportunity to see the movie, I advise you to have a look at it. So artificial intelligence can be found in numerous domains, such as agriculture, astronomy, banking and finance. I think Rita is going to tell us more about this. Construction, e-commerce, education, entertainment, healthcare, marketing, sports, transportation, you name it. A lot of things. Christian, I think you are going to talk about transportation and education and maybe healthcare. So what I wanted to say now is that over the next 5 years, the world will be increasingly turned upside down by artificial intelligence, and especially machine learning. I think Hisham will talk about machine learning extensively. Children today are growing up with home assistants like Google Assistant, Siri, Alexa, and others. It is an extension of co-parenting, and this is something that also frightens me a lot. Co-parenting by computers. I can tell you stories about my daughters speaking to robots and having spiritual discussions with robots. chatbots. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable. As voice and facial recognition and machine learning algorithms become more and more efficient, artificial intelligence is influencing more and more industries, and our society as we know it is going definitely to transform. Trades will change, and the way we perform a task will be completely different in the future. It is becoming so important and so impactful that governments are taking it very seriously and are establishing institutions to promote and follow up on its evolution. A lot of nations are having official artificial intelligence development centers and follow-up centers, and the only one that you can see in our region is the one in the United Arab Emirates. Nothing is happening in any other Arab country, unfortunately.
So these are initiatives and not like budget allocation. These are like
no, those are
investments initiatives.
And
okay.
it's showing. Unfortunately, I don't have figures newer than 2018. Unfortunately, and this is coming from the World Economic Forum. Artificial intelligence is having a huge impact on the job market. This slide, coming also from the World Economic Forum, is showing how artificial intelligence is impacting elements of the job markets, and how it is increasing between 2018 and 2022. I think I will keep this for the Q&A session afterwards. Nadim, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is like
a
big challenge for AI. Yeah.
On this thing. And basically, I will stop at this point, okay? And we'll discuss the impact on the job market in the Q&A session, okay?
Excellent. Thanks, Gabby, for this presentation and this outlay of all the, you gave us a macro look on AI, what's happening, different governments' initiatives. I think now we will leave the floor for Hisham to tell us more about the history of AI and ICT, the evolution and difference between general practice AI, is it, and the narrow product AI. Go ahead, Hisham.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, so before we talk about evolution, I'd like to talk about revolutions. So I like to take a step back and, go back into history and understand how we've always evolved. So we've had the Industrial Revolution 1.0, which brought about mechanization, the use of the steam power, the steam engines, and that brought about some benefits. We all know that. Industrial Revolution 2.0 brought about mass production, introduction of the concept of assembly lines, the better use of electricity. The third industrial revolution, the one that we're all probably familiar with and we've lived throughout, brought about the main point, which is automation. So with the invention of computers and electronics, that allowed us to do things better, faster, and cheaper. It's all about automation, and it definitely changed our jobs, forever. With the advent of information and communication technologies and the advances in ICT, there has been a race for knowledge. This race for knowledge, there's a very famous saying I looked it up actually, two different philosophers, right, that I found that said knowledge is power. And someone asked me once, they said, what's the difference between information and data? And I paused because I thought they were both really the same. Turns out they're not. So data is the digital version of information. And we're surrounded by information. Information's all around us, information about how we transact, our locations, our habits, etc., etc. Knowledge helps us. We have to perform certain work to make information become data, and we have to do a little bit more work to turn data into knowledge. and then ultimately a lot more work to turn knowledge into wisdom. Knowledge helps us definitely increase productivity, and it helps us innovate. It follows the same theme, which is how do we do things better, faster, and cheaper. Because of the advances that Gabby alluded to in computing, we've changed our jobs, right, forever. The third industrial revolution, kind of brought about a different type of work. It made a bigger emphasis on knowledge workers. So if you think about today what we do, if you look at that graphic in the bottom, we're basically, a lot of the knowledge workers are sitting at the center of all this information. They're grabbing information around transactions, people, etc., and they're distilling this information in what we call business intelligence. And there's been a huge rush towards making sense, applying the human cognitive capacity and analytical capacity, the brain power, to make sense of the information that we turned into data, and make sense of it to improve decision making in corporations, right? This improvement comes about by reducing uncertainty via predictions. So up until today, the past few decades, the investment has been in changing the job roles so that human beings are at the center of a lot of information that's been digitized, and that they're making sense of this data to produce knowledge. So knowledge creation has been a human task ultimately. So I asked the question, can we make it better, faster, and cheaper? And so this is why we go back to the chain. Information, data, knowledge. So far, what's in orange is digitization. All the efforts of the corporations have been around digitizing data. This is, creating software applications that render a lot of logic, that do things faster than a human can do. That's been great. And as I mentioned, the knowledge creation has ultimately, up until now, been predominantly a human task. When we talk about AI, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're talking about many, many factors of improvement when it comes to knowledge creation, right? So AI automates knowledge creation, and more specifically, it automates knowledge-based tasks that humans do today. It's important when we talk about AI not to confuse things, because there are different notions of what AI is. There's the ultimate end state where we want to reach, but there's the beginner stuff that we have been able to make a lot of progress on. So here I make the distinction. I talk about general AI. General AI is meant to be the whole cognitive, analytical type of artificial intelligence that we speak of, the stuff that humans do well. We're not ready there. We're not ready with this technology yet. We're still making progress, but there's a lot more to come. More specifically, what's of interest for corporations today and what they're leveraging today is narrow AI. I call it narrow because it does a few things, and it does them very well. It takes large data sets, large amounts of data. It gets trained on them, these neural networks. And what they do is they do a good job of prediction and classification. So prediction means, it's basically trying to infer data from the data that you have. It's trying to infer what possibilities and likelihoods of things happening. And what I mean by classification is it's not just is this a bird or is this a tree, image classifications. It's also classifications like, is this transaction fraudulent or is it not fraudulent? There's many different types of applications of what classification can bring about. And this is why now what we call machine learning is narrow AI. So let's define machine learning, right? So it's basically what I alluded to earlier, which is taking large data sets and allowing these algorithms to predict and to classify, right? So there's a descriptive element to it, but the focus of machine learning is prediction, right, and prescription. And this is where it can do these things that human beings have done so far with extremely large data sets. So what would take a human days, weeks, months, machines can do them a lot faster. Ultimately, Gabby mentioned this, is that machine learning is the result of the decreasing cost of compute. So we were happy the last few decades improving upon compute, which is CPUs and processors and electronics, and we've made a lot of progress there. But as that became commoditized, as the cost of compute went down, now it makes a lot more sense to use all that compute power to do this machine learning for us. So machine learning wouldn't have happened if compute was still expensive. It's now becoming that. What it's doing is it's allowing us to do more predictions. And I say better because more is better. It's allowing us to do faster predictions. And it's allowing us ultimately to do cheaper predictions. It's basically creating data that we don't have, what I call insights, from the data that we have today. So I think now we can stop, because this is, I guess this goes into the challenges, right, of the revolutionary technology. So we can stop there.
Yeah, yeah. All right, thanks, Hisham. We'll pick up again on the challenges. Now, Christian will talk about AI applications and cover verticals with 3 case uses like smartphones, self-driving cars, medical applications. Christian, go ahead.
Thank you. So maybe what I as a start would like to work out is, we are talking about big data and AI. Now, big data is a non-hierarchical type stored databases where basically everything is thrown in, and AI is the tool to understand the big data. I think this is very, maybe for the people listening to this, it's very important to understand that if we only have big data, we are in trouble, because then you need humans to try to understand it, so it's the symbiosis of big data with AI that makes a lot of sense. And before I come to my use cases, I also want to say it's a trend area. So the market is growing for big data 12% every year, which is not bad. And but maybe what is even more interesting is that the big data amount, 90% of all big data was produced, according to IBM, in the last 2 years. So it means we are in a situation where big data is exploding. Mm-hmm. This is offering new opportunities on an entrepreneurial level, but it is also obviously offering new types of uses in applications. Maybe let's start with something very simple. Let's talk about smartphones. A person using a smartphone or a smart device is creating huge amounts of big data. This is like, as we know, there are several apps which are tracking us in terms of our geographical position. So we know if we correlate the motion patterns of several users, we even know where the people are meeting, who is meeting, where are they meeting. We can see from the motion data, are they walking, are they taking a bicycle, or are they driving a car? If we are using our smartphone, the operating system obviously knows which apps we are using. So from the apps, you can make a pretty clear picture of the user. It makes a difference if someone has a lot of weather apps, a surfer app, and a wind app. You can assume that, I don't know, maybe this person is sailing or whatever. Or if people who are using Siri or Google Assistant on Android, they are permanently listening. So it's a permanent stream of audio which is being recorded with the smart device. And Android or iOS, they even know what you are connecting. Like if some people may connect with Bluetooth to, I don't know, to a baby phone, if this is the case, you can assume that the person is a family father or mother, whatever. Or if we talk, for example, the market leader in fitness wristbands is named Fitbit. Some of you may have heard of them. If they create data, they are directly selling this data, which comes from the Fitbit armrest, to 18 companies. So it means that this big data is spread, and obviously, and we talk about this later, there are a lot of ethical and privacy questions connected with this. So a private person already is making a huge cloud of big data, but it's not only people. If we look at cars, like a Tesla today has built in 8 surround cameras to understand the 330 degrees around the car. It has 12 ultrasonic sensors built in and 1 forward-facing radar. So in total, I'm counting 21 sensors, which are, I mean, no person normally is getting this data. It's just the car by itself. And in the future, the car companies are already working on protocols that the cars can speak with each other. So those are giant big data creators. And maybe a third example, as we said before, is medical applications. I had to do with IBM in the past, and they are very much into this. And this is not only just about storing MRI or CT pictures. It's about, IBM is using artificial intelligence, which is, and this AI has learned about, like, I don't know, if the doctor is a specialist in, I don't know, in some area, all medical cases are known to the AI, so the AI is capable of learning and knowing about things no human would be able to. And the AI is not making any decision, but the AI is making lots of suggestions to the doctor. It is reminding him that there was such a case on some country somewhere, and is presenting the findings from it, and it is tremendously helping the doctor in terms of increasing the quality of the diagnosis, and also helping in procedures and whatever. And as we discussed before, obviously one very well-known medical case of big data is the ESRI. It is a geographical information system provider database about COVID-19. So if you go to the Johns Hopkins, but not only Johns Hopkins, there are hundreds of different types of COVID databases. This is just one example where you see all countries on the planet are feeding in their data about infections, about deadly cases, etc. And we very conveniently, at the end of the day, we have a world map where we can exactly see, like in which country the virus is at the moment more dangerous, where there are more infections, etc. So basically, to come back, AI is helping us to understand the big data, and this is not only a gradual advantage, but it also allows, as I explained before, with the self-driving cars, and also with, by the way, autonomous air taxis. I was researching the air taxi domain. There are 4 or 5 perfectly working products out there. The problem for the air taxis at the moment is regulation. That so far there's no nation who until now has like allowed or committed themselves in doing something. But my point is that with big data and AI, it allows disruptive developments. And finally, the conclusion of this, also because I am an entrepreneur, in the future, the success of companies will depend on the ability of the company to deal with big data and AI, and this will be, how do you say, a deciding aspect. It will be something most companies have to learn, respectively, most companies have to facilitate.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Christian. It's been very helpful. Now, Rita will talk about two main verticals, telecom, banking, I guess, and the impact of AI on those sectors.
Again, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be part of this conference for the second year. Today, a different format, a little bit more virtual, but we see technology is changing our life. And then especially to what has been said before by Gabriel, Hisham, and Christian, I cannot agree more, actually. So artificial intelligence is there. It's not anymore a trend, and then it's of course more than a buzzword or just a temporary distraction. So we see that this is the era of the third era of computing, and then we see that artificial intelligence is becoming actually the backbone of where our future is being built on. I don't know if you would like to share here the slides, but meanwhile, I would like you just to imagine a day of your life. And then, of course, this day will not be so far in the future, where just you wake up in the morning and then you order your breakfast by Alexa. When ready to go to the office, you sum up your shared Tesla to be in front of your house. You go to the office, the door opens just by recognizing your face. At your desk, you can just ask your virtual assistant to start scheduling your meetings. At lunchtime, you can check your investments portfolio just by logging in through your biometrics, and then you have your robot advisor just up for your service. At the end of the day, you want to go back home. Again, you order your shared Tesla, you arrive at home, it's a raining day. Instead of going to the gym, just you have already your Peloton subscription, and then you have your virtual reality training plan starting on. The day is over, time for dinner, ordering the dinner by Alexa, and then in front of the TV having Netflix suggesting like the best movie based on your mood. So this is how our life is becoming. And then of course, this is very much driven by customer experience and then customer expectation. So we see artificial intelligence actually are creating a lot of opportunities, both on the consumer and corporate level. So here, just in the banking industry, we see that artificial intelligence has been adopted rapidly, mainly driven by the increase of customer experience expectation, but also need for convenience, speed, and then efficiency. So for instance, we have biometrics. We know that biometrics are already disrupting the way how we onboard clients. By using biometrics in a way, you can be potentially recognized without the need to have an ID. For example, N26, a German digital bank, claimed that they can onboard a client just in 10 minutes. On the other hand, we know that Robot Advisor, which is an automated investment portfolio services, can, of course, do similar tasks with very little human intervention, similar tasks to any financial advisor, by taking 0.25% revenue of your profit compared to 1 or 3% compared to the traditional services. And then we see in some cases they outperform financial advisors. We know that virtual assistant made the access to banking services available 24 times 7 times 365 days, making the services or any response to any request 4 times faster with half of the cost. Not only just responding to your request, but also understanding your mood of the request and then acting accordingly. In banking as well, we also we see that AI-based credit scoring as well are increasing. leveraging your data available in social media together with additional answers to certain questions. It's possible for someone just to get microns in less than 24 hours. We also see that by using natural language processing, it's possible just to check the contracts and then speed up the process and then reduce mistakes when it comes to loan or mortgages. Again, we see that we are moving from process-driven approach to more AI data-driven automation for data decision making, and this is something that is applicable whether in banking or any other industry. So similar to the banking sector, we know that the one overarching trend in the telecom industry is that the network is expanding in scope and an area of usage. We expect 2.9 billion 5G subscription in 2025, more than 8.9 billion mobile subscription from 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G, which means that a lot of investments will happen across all the industries, and then those are mainly driven by technologies that are leveraging AI or 5G, such augmented reality, robotics, connected transport, or smart manufacturing. So we expect the data traffic to be 5 times more in 2024, and then definitely this will bring a lot of complexity to the network. So we see also in the telecommunication that there will be always the pressure to balance in one hand customer experience, and then the second hand the cost efficiency in order to deliver the services while keeping the cost low or competitive. So here we also see some use cases of AI deployed in telecommunication, again to balance between the customer experience and then the cost efficiency. So with those new services mentioned before, whether robotics, smart monitoring, connected transports, or even any other telecom services, expectation of the consumer is increasing, which means the network needs to be up anytime, always, everywhere, and so forth. So operators require just to not only be ready for any challenge or incident, but also just to make sure that they are proactive and then prevent any issue to happen. By leveraging AI, it's possible to identify any cell degradation performance, for instance, or any sleeping cell. It's also possible to understand consumers' need and expectation before they ask for. It's also possible just to turn into a more efficient operation by being able to detect any outlier on the infrastructure or on the application level, try to predict the root cause of this outlier, and then at the same time try to take an automated action to correct any incident before it happens. Cutting, for instance, energy is good for everyone. We see that a lot of operators, they focus on how to save energy in general, and then that's why AI becomes a very effective tool for that, because it helps just utilizing the energy and then the resources in a better way, bringing the best of the whole infrastructure. In the next slide here, we see that providing a network performance requires a rapid decision making, and then of course a smart monitoring. Executive understand and realize that AI will play a more and more important role in order just to achieve that, so they can turn today's operation and then customer service into more proactive and then preventive approach. Last slide here, we see some proof points from AI used in operations or in telecommunication. So again, leveraging AI will solve the right problem. So here we can see how by distributing the load between the different network or network resources can improve the network performance or improve the network NPS 25% more, trying or being able to prevent an incident before it happens, reducing the number of incidents 70%. We also see that operators are able to reduce the energy or increase the energy saving 14% and then achieve a better coverage with more than 25%. So here we can see that AI can help both on managing the network, designing the network, and then supporting operator to provide a superior customer experience.
Thanks, Rita. It's really helpful. This section now, it's open questions. I will ask each speaker a couple of questions and ask them to point out in their view what are the challenges facing AI and the technology. First question is to Gabby. This is a serious one. How do you see AI vis-a-vis loss of human jobs? Are the machines going to compete with the humans? Are the people going to lose their jobs to AI, to machines? Or, as Christian said, there are certain things, especially in the medical field, where the decision making is still limited to the human. You know, the machine cannot do everything.
Yeah. Yes, yes. I would like to have my slides back, but before that, I have a comment actually. I'm not sure that all the things that human beings do can be replaced by a machine. It's absolutely impossible. I mean, you cannot provide emotions and love and you know things that are so much inherent.
We will leave that to the super AI for Hisham, because he mentioned about super AI, yeah. And I'm very curious about it. What he meant by super AI. I know about the general and the narrow.
شو بده يكون super AI يعني إنه عندنا فكرة. We have an idea about the humanoid machines that can have a similarly human behavior, but it's still not a real behavior. Anyway, but creativity, design, although in the movie, I don't know if you have seen the movie, but a machine can create music, okay? But I cannot believe that a machine can create Mozart-like music or Bach or Beethoven-like music. Yani music that is coming from God, or music that gods listen to.
Yeah.
Bach writes music that is, coming from God, and Mozart writes music that God listens to. Okay, so how can you imagine a machine doing that? I don't know. How can you imagine a machine doing architectural design? Something like sure. The Guggenheim of Bilbao. A machine designing the Guggenheim Museum of Bilbao. I cannot imagine that. And I don't like to imagine that actually. Because otherwise,
yeah.
Let's go just suicide.
So can we have Gabby's slide, please?
Definitely, the machines will be able to do more and more repetitive tasks, automatic tasks. Yani things like going through laws to find which article applies to this case in all the jurisprudence from 2 centuries back. This is something that a machine will be able to do. But this is systematic work. It's not creative work.
Okay.
So my advice actually to those who are really afraid of seeing the machines replacing them is actually to go to the creative stuff. Go to where you can do things that nobody can do, that will have your signature, your flavor, your experience. This the machine will not be able to do. But on the other hand, we can see in my last slide some figures related to some jobs where the machine will be able to take over somehow.
I agree with you. There are certain jobs that machines cannot do, but there are certain jobs that humans cannot do.
Machines can do better, yes.
Or humans can never do, like supercomputing when it comes to, like, let's say, cryptocurrency.
Hey, of course.
Then this is a very huge job, I mean.
But can I make a point here, or
Please.
a little maybe a counterpoint, because I'm very much with Gabriel. We are now living 250 years of automatization, and so far our society did not care too much about the effects of automatization, because in the beginning it was simple textile workers, later it was simple other workers, and now for the first time it is lawyers, journalists who feel threatened from AI, and now we have the big revolution. We have to change our national economic systems. We will all lose jobs, and this is very hypocritical, because it's for the first time the elite who is confronted with automatization. I'm fully with Gabriel. There will be lots of jobs, and maybe AI is creating jobs. We don't know.
Yes,
so
yes.
it's a little bit of a hypocritical discussion, and I think that you have to have the same measures over the 250 years. So far, we simply accept as a natural effect of inventing things.
Yeah, exactly. And then, sorry. I just want to just acknowledge what Christian has said about creating jobs. Actually, there is a report by PwC that says that in 20 years, AI will create 7.2 million jobs, offsetting 7 million loss in jobs. So which means, like, even if you are going to lose some jobs, there will be new jobs created. And then this debate about losing jobs is the same debate that happened when machine, computer, internet was also invented. So it's the same debate, as also Christian has said, that is there for probably 200 years. So everyone, there is a new capability or new technology, there's this fear about losing the jobs or just losing certain differentiation.
Okay.
But it's not about just replacing human, it's more complementing the capability of human, or doing in some certain aspects some tasks even better.
Agreed. So I guess now,
there's an important
Hisham.
point here, Hassan, for you. Sorry. Nadim, sorry.
Yeah.
Nadim, there's an important point here regarding how fast this is progressing. I understand, that humans do a lot of things differently, especially the creative things. But the last study I read about the subject is that AI advancements are doubling every 3 months. Mm-hmm. And if I can tell you one thing that is for sure, is that human beings have a weakness. The weakness of human beings is their ability to anticipate anything that moves at an exponential pace.
True.
We tend to be very linear, and we like to think that way, but when something's exponential, we have a weakness. We don't understand how fast it's going to hit us in the face. I say this only because if something is doubling every 3 months, we cannot treat the last 100 years or even 50 years at all as a baseline to anticipate what's about to hit us in the face. And I'm not saying that the super AI is, 18 months around the corner. What I'm trying to say is that, yes, there's the notion of the augmented self, which is what all of us have been talking about today, which is how can these machine learning or even simple general AI help me do my job better. The question we have to ask ourselves is, as we embrace this technology, do we allow this AI to be suggestive or decisive? There's a big difference between the two. If it is suggestive, it allows me to perform. I can just take, I get the options, like Rita was giving us the example of the Alexas and the Netflix giving us the options, and I select. Ultimately, it's my decision. The moment we decide to make AI decisive, that's when we're going to run into trouble if we're not prepared.
Is this the ethical challenge you're speaking about, or you want to speak about?
This is one of the four ethical
okay.
challenges, yes. But I think it's important that you guys raise this up, because this whole concept of jobs changing, our biggest challenge as human beings has been the ability to adapt to the pace of change. And unfortunately, unlike the mechanization of agriculture and the industrialization and the other industrial revolutions, which have took time and give us the chance to retrain and reskill people to adapt, this one may hit us faster in the face, maybe faster than when we can retrain people and faster than we can adapt. And this is my biggest worry. So yeah, I feel free to get into the whole challenges, but I just wanted to raise this point, this whole concept of exponential change. Yeah.
If we talk about dangers, I think there's one danger which many people don't see or don't want to see, and this is the biggest of all, and the name is smart weapons. The US, China, Russia, they are all experimenting. You can buy in China kill drones already, so they have a built-in, it is holding some type of weapon. You can buy it now, and you surely have seen there's this video from this US professor where he is anticipating killer drones which are only a few centimeters big, and they look for your face. And as one drone probably will not do the job, they are starting 1,000, and those 1,000 little for your face. So this is technology we have today. So what it means, I think I don't have to explain. And so smart weapons is the, I don't know, some smart person said that you really need a human to develop weapons which can wipe us out, and we are proud about it. So this is completely crazy. This is a very, very smart weapons should be banned, like AB, atomic, biological, and chemical warfare, and number 4 should be smart weapons.
I think this is part of the ethical challenge that Hisham wanted to address, right, Hisham? Go ahead, please, if you want.
That's right. But let me just also add one more thing. Sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent, but this is important. Before we address the ethical challenges, I want to remind us that the topic here is how is AI going to help maybe corporations and human jobs and stuff like that, right? So we need to probably keep the whole general AI, this super intelligent computer discussion for later, and just focus maybe on the machine learning and the more specific industrial AI. Before I say this, we all know, Rita mentioned the network, right? The telecommunications infrastructure has been instrumental in advancing the third industrial revolution, because all these computers doing all these processes that are divorced from the rest has not given us a lot of value. The value we got with infrastructure, telecommunications infrastructure, is that we were able to share information more efficiently, right? Keep in mind I say information. Actually, I meant data, because data is the digital form of information. What we're talking about today with this fourth industrial revolution, the advent of AI, is sharing knowledge more efficiently, right? So we shared data, that was great. Now we're talking about sharing knowledge. Let me tell you something about data. Data today is very abundant and it's very cheap, but it's not going to last. And I'll tell you why. There's a lot of forces that are at play here that are going to make good quality data very scarce. And I would argue very expensive. Because as privacy concerns rise, as consumers and as people begin to feel that the information about their spending habits, their shopping, their locations, whatever, should be private, they're also thinking about how they should monetize from that, because corporations for the last few decades have been making a lot of money from the free, abundant data, and nobody has been aware. But that force is pushing down on that. So to have good AI, to have good machine learning, you need to have good data sets. And good quality data is going to be very expensive. Okay, it's going to be very hard to come by. So that's one of the big challenges I wanted to raise before talking about the ethical challenges of AI, because that's going to make AI very expensive at some point. Well, not very expensive, but more expensive than it is today. Today, data is cheap, and everybody's grabbing it.
So it's not AI that is expensive, it's actually the data, the big data that's, yeah.
Absolutely. Good quality data in the future is going to become scarce, and it's going to become expensive. And this is why, and you will need good quality data to train a good AI. You know what I mean? Now, this brings up the whole issue of data provenance. At some point, we're going to transition from the digital economy into something called the data economy, where data is going to start to become an asset of very high value, the new oil, you know what I mean? So let's go into the ethical challenges of AI. So I see 4 at least. I mean, there could be more. And I mentioned, I think maybe the rest of my colleagues in the panel will maybe raise what I'm missing. But the first one I see is the ethical sourcing of data, which is, have I gotten consent to get this data to train my AI? So this is going to be a very important ethical challenge, right? The second, so the first challenge is, where am I getting my data from? Am I getting it with the right consent? Am I violating any privacy laws? Am people are okay with it? Second challenge is the ethical applications of narrow AI. When I talk about, remember, suggestive versus decisive, the moment I decide I would like this AI to be decisive and make decisions, then this brings up a whole bunch of ethical challenges. I have a driving app on my phone. It sees how fast I go, if I brake, if I burn any red lights. Okay, if a cop doesn't catch me, and if a camera doesn't catch me, is it ethical to let this AI catch me and report me to the police? Another example is, I make a whole bunch of dodgy transactions. Should my bank account be suspended, or my credit card? Should I be rejected from a loan if I'm applying for a loan with the bank? So there's a whole bunch of ethical questions about the application of narrow AI. Third challenge is bias. Everybody knows what bias is. Bias is just me leaning towards something more than the others, and because of my what I've been through in my life, or my historical preconceptions, and data sets have built-in bias. If I give the AI a whole bunch of images of blue birds and orange birds, it's going to be biased to make decisions based on the data set I gave it. So data selection for training is key. It's very important. And to now, all the AIs, all the machine learning algorithms we have demonstrated inherent biases based on the data sets that train. And the fourth challenge is explainability. Very difficult. I'm not going to say impossible. Very difficult to trace what went wrong when a machine learning or AI algorithm predicts or classifies. Good luck. Good luck finding out how the logic in its neural network it worked. So that brings up the key issues, because if things go down the legal route, if things go to court, if things go to people need an explanation, good luck explaining how the AI arrived at that decision. So we have to be very careful.
Right, but in number 3, the data selection is key. However, these criteria are set by the humans, the managers. The machines are only like checking them, right? So at the end of the day, whoever is sitting behind the machine is responsible for the outcome.
It's like training your dog. It's like you have a pet. If you train it well, it will perform well. If you train it in a different style, everybody has a different style. That's what I'm saying, is data selection is key. And especially in facial recognition, some AIs have been inherently biased towards people of color. Imagine that. And that's because the large amount of the data sets have been, maybe like different ethnicities. So this is interesting. It's interesting to see how they evolve with us. That's all I'm going to say about the challenges. I'll leave the floor for others that maybe some have been missed in.
Rita, you want to speak about privacy, please? The challenge.
Yes, of course. We have a lot has been said about the challenges there, and then one thing is that Hisham just mentioned about the consent. So in a way that we always fear, and then a lot of people fear that there's always the big brother watching. So what we are doing on the internet, and then what we are posting, images and others. So that's why it's also very important to have regulation in a way, just to give people the right to at least give the consent on that. And then I believe this is something that's already started to being applied today with GDPR. So it's already one step in that aspect.
Is GDPR inclusive? I mean, does it cover everything, or just like the first step towards protection and privacy? Or
again, exactly. So here it depends on the use cases, and then how far you can go with AI. We discussed that AI can introduce a lot of innovation and then facilities for sure, and then we can go from one simple use case, video or ordering, to the Neuralink, like just having a chip as well in your mind, and then try to do replace an arm or a leg or other stuff. So of course AI or this technology can bring a lot of opportunity, a lot of use cases. Definitely GDPR alone will not solve the problem. So that's why it's very important that AI is regulated. First, just to have an entity accountable on what's being developed. Second, with the GDPR, just to protect people's privacy. But at the same time, here we also should not be focused on the privacy, because we also know that by having a lot of limitation, we can also have we can limit the innovation or embracing this technology. For instance, if we take the COVID example, there have been a lot of tracing applications that have been invented. We also know, for instance, if we take France, only 20% of the people has used those applications. And then definitely this is not good to reach a certain data power that Hisham has mentioned, because people were afraid just to expose their data. So on one hand, it's very important to do the regulation so people are comfortable exposing their data. But at the same time, it's also important that we embrace those innovations, because in a way that AI, as we discussed, can bring a lot of innovation that people are asking for. Because here, as a person, we always have this debate or just this balance that we have to do. Do we want to have convenience? Of course. Are we afraid to expose the data? Yes. How can we find this balance? By finding the convenience that we want without exposing a lot of privacy of people. And then that's why now there's also another risk that a lot of people are talking about, is that we see that AI probably may be controlled by 9 or 10 companies worldwide. So we may have a certain monopolies of companies controlling AI, because those people may have access to the data more than others. And then, of course, as Hisham has mentioned before, the data is the game, the data is the power. AI alone cannot translate the results we want. It's how to get the data to be able to achieve the results wanted.
Great. This has been very exciting panel. We learned a lot of new stuff, and definitely, I mean, there is no limit on where the technology is going, and how it could be useful to mankind, to science, to the economy, all over. So let's wrap up. 2 minutes each. How about that? Everyone says his final remarks about AI, about what we've been discussing. I'll start with Hisham. Are we at Industrial 4.0 or not yet with AI?
I think we are. I think we are already.
Okay.
And I mentioned the pace of acceleration. It's very scary. You remember the two arrows I showed between information and data? That arrow was everything becoming digital.
Mm-hmm.
And then the arrow from data to knowledge is where AI is accelerating this. Remember, what's after knowledge is wisdom. What I fear is that we're trying to shorten those arrows, by the way. We're trying to make them faster,
Sure.
cheaper, better. That's what we're doing as human beings. We're always trying to improve the way we do business. You know, my shop, I want to sell more. I want to understand more my customer. I'm always trying to improve. My fear is that we've created something that if this turns into the general AI that we speak of, it's going to get to wisdom faster than the humans. So I'm just, not to say it as a joke, but yes, we have unleashed the genie, and there's no putting it back. And so, you know, well, let's brace ourselves for a very fun ride. That's what I would say.
Great. Rita, you had me at networks of tomorrow, networks of the future, because I come from telecom background also. Is AI and technology driving telecom 5G or the other way around? Because we know that 5G, I mean, all of the supercomputing, the artificial intelligence, the augmented reality, the virtual reality, they all need a lot of bandwidth, which cannot be supported by 4G. So this is what's happening. Am I on the right track there?
Yes, I would say that actually the consumer is driving both 5G and then AI. So in a way, it is life to say challenges are changing, the future is changing, people's expectations are increasing. That's why the need to invent 5G or enable 5G to support new services. And then, of course, at the same time, this is bringing a lot of complexity, and then bringing a lot of data. That's also, it's wise to leverage to become even more intelligent from corporate, from network, from a person. Today, like, you know, we know today better than we knew 5 years ago because we have learned. So what if, like, you know, leveraging all the smartness and intelligence in the world by just looking in the data in an intelligent way and then act accordingly? Do we need just like to burn our head just to learn? I think it's already, those data or insights are good for the people. I believe, like, in general, AI is a positive force that will bring a lot of innovation, I would say. But of course, even the best intended people can do great harm. So it is always very important that everyone take the decision how to leverage this intelligence, and then how to drive the technology evolution, and then accordingly. And then, as you said, especially in telecommunication, the pace of change is going very fast, and then definitely this will enable a lot of opportunities, even to elevate the artificial intelligence to the next level.
Well said, well said. Christian, I can't get Alexa to mention my name right still. So what about the user experience? How can we make AI friendly? Is there a way to address these issues?
Yes, sure. Well, I want to say that with every new technology, it takes some time for societies to adapt. Like, I remember when the first television sets, the first color television sets showed up, like, everyone was watching TV permanently. The TV was running the whole day, etc. Today, we smile a little bit about this because today television has like some function, but it's a reduced one. So we got to learn with the new technology. We developed, we learned that the TV is not a pacifier for babies, but better you only switch it on if you really want it. And this is a learning process. So also in this area, like, one example for such a learning process is that, you know, we in Austria, as like in many other countries, had the discussion about the COVID, the virus app. Now, the funny thing about is that, like, people have absolutely no problem using Facebook. Facebook app is getting out your telephone numbers, is storing them somewhere. They know your location. They know everything. They even know your most intimate discussion with friends. So no problem about that. But a virus app where the people see a danger, consequences. I think in Vienna we even had a demonstration against the app. So I'm not speaking for or against the app. I only want to tell that this is a tricky part, and the people have to learn how much data they are willing to disclose. For me, I can say I love AI because I have every AI app available on Android I have on my phone. I like the most BirdNet because I have a terrace and there are always a lot of birds singing and etc. And now I know which birds are singing, and if there are plants growing, I have like an app which is telling me which is. So I'm an AI power user and I'm feeling very good at the moment with this.
Good, good. Gabby, I don't know, can we dream that one day we will have a robot at home offering you coffee and not only making the coffee for you? How about that? You are on mute.
Yes, I have two comments.
Yes.
Okay, the first one is I advise you to stop using Alexa and start using Siri. Okay, it works. It's really much better. This is one advice for you, Nadim. The second comment I have is I really believe that the world is going too fast. It's really going too fast, and this speed of growth and performance and search for for wealth and is preventing us from looking to from searching for happiness. And it's coming, all of that is coming out of greed. And maybe we should reconsider our greed. We should think about it again. And I had a friend. He's dead now. His name is Bob Marley. He used to sing, "Don't worry, be happy."
Okay.
Okay. So I think this is the best thing that we can do. Is actually don't worry, be happy, and stop looking for the money. The recent developments that we have seen during 2020, especially in Lebanon, especially in Lebanon. I discovered that this is nonsense. We are going nowhere with this, race for growth, performance, achievement. All of that. Maybe we should reconsider all of this and focus on happiness and be modest. That's it.
Great. This has been a very exciting session. Thank you, Gabby, for sharing the joy. Rita for sharing the insight. Hisham for sharing the vision, and Christian for sharing the experience. It has been very insightful, very nourishing. I look forward to having another session sometime soon. And
Thank you.
Thank you for being a great moderator, Nadim.
Thank you.
You're a wonderful moderator. Thank you to my colleague panelists.
thank
This
you.
was a
Same
pleasure.
here. Thank you.
Thanks, all of you.
My pleasure.
All right. Have a good
Bye.
evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.